Hey there, YouTubers. Kid in Order here, and you're watching Session Report, the show that takes you to the gamer's table to share in the surprises that come out during play. And today we are going to be playing Superhot, the card game. And this is going to be a sort of a test video for a couple of reasons. Basically, you may have noticed that I have not been posting very many videos lately. There's a good reason for that. Two things. Basically, my schedule changed so that I have much less time available to play games, and also the video editing software that I was using is no longer available to me, and I was having a really hard time finding something that works on my sort of crummy little laptop computer without crashing the computer and getting a good quality. So I had a sort of a rough time editing together the last video that I made, which was the Apocrypha adventure card game. And that's sort of kept me away from doing a new one. So this is going to be a test. I'm going to be playing a short game, Superhot the card game, probably about a half hour, maybe maximum 45 minutes. And I'm going to edit it together into 3, possibly 4 short videos, because that's a way that I can keep the video quality up. Anything longer than like a half hour, and I have to scale the resolution down and the frame rate down in order to get it to export. Otherwise it crashes my computer. Yay, very fun. If this works out and it's not a huge hassle for me, I'm gonna go on to make some videos of some longer games. Maybe I'm gonna revisit Pandemic Legacy. That would be fun. I could do some more Gloomhaven. I also have Seventh Continent available. So anyway, that's just a little explanation. Let's get into Superhot the card game. We'll explain a little bit about how the game works, then we'll get into playing. Okay, Superhot the card game is a pretty unique property because it's simultaneously based on 2 different things. It's based on the Superhot computer game, which is a first-person shooter game in which time only moves when you move, which gives it a more strategic feel than a lot of first-person shooters. Basically, you know, guys with guns will be shooting at you, but the bullets will only move when you move your character, so you can sort of plan around that in a certain way. But Superhot the card game is also based on a game called Agent Decker, which was a print-and-play game. I think it actually either won or it was in the top 3 of the Solitaire print-and-play contest a couple of years back, designed by Manuel Correa. I don't know. I might be butchering that. I don't speak Spanish. And that game was a sort of a deck-building game, but it had a mission structure. There was like a campaign to it, and it had a few similarities with this game, but this game is also its own unique beast. One of the big differences between this and Agent Decker is that this is more of a sort of free-form style game. You're playing to complete 3 levels, and each level is made up of randomly selected goals, so it doesn't have that mission structure. It doesn't have that campaign structure in which more difficult and advanced cards are constantly being shuffled into the deck. So let me explain how the game works. As I mentioned before, time only moves when you move. What that means is there is a sort of a scrolling row of cards, but the rate at which it scrolls is equal to how many cards you played in your turn. So if, for instance, I played all 4 of my cards in my turn, then all 4 of these cards are going to go away, and I'm going to refill the row after sliding the rest down with 4 more cards. Okay, that by itself is not that unusual, but what really makes this stand out from other deck building games are a couple of different things. One is that, unlike most deck building games, the cards you have in your deck actually don't remain in your deck. So, the cards I play on my turn go into the obstacles discard, because every card you can have in your deck, aside from these bullets, which I'll get to in a second, is simultaneously an obstacle and an item or a technique that you can use as the player. So if we want to find out the use as a player, it's the top half of the card. So we have dodge and punch cards in our hand. There's also guns, pliers, plans out on the board. The bottom part of the card is how it exists as an obstacle. So this gun that I could have starts out as a dude with a gun. So when I play cards, like I said, they go into the obstacle discard pile, which means that instead of remaining in my deck after I play them, they're going to show up out here in a later date. Meanwhile, any cards that get discarded from the obstacle deck go into my discard pile. So the other really unique thing about this compared to other deck building games is that when you want to buy a card, you don't actually have to buy the card. You can do what's called maneuver past the card, which basically means if it scrolls off the screen, then it just goes into your discard pile, and it's as if you bought it. So if I am able to play 4 cards, I'm able to buy all 4 of these first 4 cards in the row, which is pretty awesome. But there's a rule that you can only play cards, basically you can only play cards if they're going to have an effect. So I couldn't just play these 4 cards and not do anything with them. I would have to use these cards specifically to purchase a card from here. And it's not called purchasing, it's actually called destroying. When you destroy a card, it goes into the new cards area and you get it on your next turn, which is another strategic choice you can make. Because for instance, I could play 4 cards and destroy these this safe space, and then I'd get pliers on my next turn. But I know that card is going to go into my discard pile next turn anyway for maneuvering past it. So unless I really want it on the next turn, it's better to get something from further down the row, and then I get 5 new cards in my deck instead of just 4. So that's the basics of how the game works. How do you win and lose? The only way to win is to complete 3 levels of sort of randomly selected objectives. And we're going to see the goals in a second. So you have to complete 1 goal for the first level, 2 goals for the second level, and 3 goals for the third level. You can veto some goals, but you can't veto anything on the third level, and you always have to eventually encounter the goal that you vetoed. So if I veto something on the first level, I'm going to have to encounter it on the second level. Same with whatever card I veto on the second level, and then like I mentioned, on the third level you can't veto anything. So you always have to end up encountering it. That's the only way to win the game. I have to complete these goals, and the goals are going to be stuff like make 3 dudes in a row in, this is called the line, so 3 dudes in a row in the line, or have a hand of 8 cards, or have a certain amount of either like attack or dodge in your hand. So those kinds of things are how you're going to win. How do you lose? There's a lot of ways to lose the game. One way to lose the game is to have 4 bullets in your hand at a time. And these bullets are tough. If you ever get a bullet in your hand, it's basically as if you got shot. You have a bullet in your body. It really slows you down for a lot of reasons. One, it takes up a spot in your hand. So that's 1 less card that you can play, and you can't play it, you can't get rid of it except by using pliers or some other special card. There's a couple of ways to kind of get rid of a bullet, but primarily you're going to have to use pliers to sort of pluck that bullet right out of your body. So if you ever get 4 bullets in your hand at a time, you lose, because you've essentially been shot to death. If you ever run out of cards in the bullet deck, because they're all in the obstacle deck or in your hand or in your deck, then you lose because there's so many bullets flying through the air, it's impossible to dodge them, and you lose. If you ever run out of cards in your deck and you need to draw cards, and this could happen for a couple of reasons, primarily because instead of destroying cards, if it's a card you don't particularly want or to complete an objective, you can knock out the card and basically turn it face down, and then it's going to go into the obstacles discard instead of into your discard pile. So your deck can shrink as you go. If you are unable to draw a card for your deck, you automatically lose the game. Also, if you are unable to draw a card for the obstacles discard, you automatically lose the game. And that's one reason that you might want to knock out cards, because generally your deck grows bigger and bigger as you play, but you might want to knock out cards so you don't have to run out of cards in the obstacle deck. So there's a lot of different ways to lose. Those are really the 4 ways to lose. and then there's only one way to win, just like many solo and cooperative games. By the way, this is primarily a solo game, but there are cooperative and even versus variants for it. All right, so that's a basic overview of the game. We're going to try and win. I'm going to make a separate video for first level, second level, and third level, and then depending on the length of the video, this will either be its own thing or this will be edited together with the first level video. All right, let's play Superhot.